Alright, I'm back with more information on the Rust electricity update for Thursday, December 13th, where there are a number of bug fixes or changes to the electrical components released today. In the past, you could not combine root combiners. My previous video described how to use OR switches to try and pick the better power source, but you couldn't actually put them together. Now you can put them together. With some caveats. There's still either a bug or maybe this is intended behavior, although it sucks. Um, what happens when you combine two root combiners through another component is it still is bugged the same way it used to be. So this combiner going into a display, this combiner going into a display, you can see how much power I've got here. If I take these and put them into this root combiner, nothing, still empty, can't remove the wire, same bug as before. So you can't have a root combiner downstream after other components. However, if I take them and put them directly into another root combiner, you can see that one lit up, and this one lights up, and there you go. Now it's actually combining. And I can take this root combiner and put it into here, because that wire doesn't actually exist. That still works. And I can continue to go downstream to a load, but you cannot have a load in between root combiners. And remember, switches count as a load, so to prove that, if I go from this root combiner from my windmills to this one, works great. But if I take it, plug it into this switch, plug the switch into the root combiner, oops, cable isn't actually there, can't be removed, doesn't work. Can't have a root combiner downstream of any load. So maybe they'll fix that. Would sure be nice to be able to combine things further downstream. But right now, if you want to combine loads, you got to combine them all together with your combiners connected to each other and aggregate your whole load before you put it onto, or sorry, aggregate your whole source before you take it to a load. You can see here if I take this over here and attach it to the other, now we got all of them together. Now it's 200 combined between all of these, so you can definitely combine root combiners now, you just can't have anything in between them. Second thing they did was they nerfed the solar panels. They only put out 20 instead of 30. This one's only putting out 17, probably because it's not facing the sun. And their output is dependent on their health. So you can see this is a fully healthy solar panel, but if you damage it, that output power will actually go down. So that gives some ideas to those of you who want to get around trap bases. You may not have to kill power sources. You may be able to just damage them enough to lower the power and disable the traps. And the third thing, which is, this is a little complicated, the batteries can now be wired in series correctly. They didn't really work before, they do now. So if I take this and plug it into this battery, and then plug this battery into a load, you'll see that this battery is discharging. This battery is actually charging, so it's kind of, I'm assuming the math here is that it kind of discharges and charges on cycles of some kind. So you'll notice that it's not going down in real time. Most of the power is coming from the first battery. In fact, you'll see this battery will tick up in time every once in a while. It'll go from like 158, 157. It might stop, and then it might like jump up to 158, 159, and then start going down again. So it actually kind of charges. I can prove this by taking the input from my windmills and putting it onto this battery. You'll notice this slows down too. Not quite discharging in real time anymore. So it's charging a little bit, but it discharges faster than it charges. Mathematically, I can prove this because I did a test for 2 minutes in this configuration, and starting both these batteries at 4 minutes each, the total overall time went down 40 seconds over a 2-minute period. So even though there's, you know, over 100 units of power coming in here, in the magical world of Rust, these batteries are based on time, not units of energy. So even though there's a ton of power coming in here, way more than the workload, they both do continue to drop. They'll pause every once in a while for a second or two. They'll even go back up by a second or two every once in a while. But ultimately, over a longer period of time, both batteries will discharge, even though you're putting plenty of power in. Just it doesn't work that way. maybe it's a bug. Maybe they'll change the batteries to power units instead of time later, and this will make more sense. But right now, you can't charge a battery or string of batteries if there's a load on it. So same rules as before. If there's a load on the battery, you can't charge it. You can slow it down with enough input power, but you can't really charge it. So you'll still want to build a circuit that bypasses your battery and provides your live power to your systems when you don't want to use battery or while you're charging your batteries. And then when you don't have enough input power anymore, then use your various components to switch over to battery. And I've got other videos that explain that, so you can go watch those. So that's about it for today's updates. Kind of better, still buggy. It's Rust. What do you expect?